The radiances failed across Iran before the end of morning prayers. Authority monitoring systems registered contemporaneous failures across the grid's primary bumps, from the southwestern oil painting refineries to the artificial regions outside Tehran. Seconds laterally, the fires started. 40 million people were left without electricity before daylight. In metropolises like Isfahan and Shiraz, hospitals changed to exigency creators as business systems went along tenebrous and external water pumping stations stopped performing. These failures followed a pattern of high-perfection strikes. The operation targeted the special capitals and transmission halls that interlink Iran's dynamism product to its major population centers. Satellite imagery verified the scale of the damage across 4 major spots. At the Abadan refinery complex and the Bandar Imam Khomeini petrochemical hub, judges linked structural damage harmonious with perfection munitions. Israeli officers latterly conceded responsibility for the strikes. They represented the operation as a targeted trouble to degrade the fiscal coffers Iran uses to supply and channelize makeshift Marshall missions throughout the region. The jolt shifted through the country's structure in swells. Beyond the immediate loss of light, the failure of water pumping stations meant that by mid-morning, major civic areas were reciting a grand loss of running water. The collapse was a result of how Iran's authority grid is erected. It relies on a centralized network where high-voltage transmission lines connect indigenous generation installations directly to distant metropolises. When transmission structure is struck at formerly across multitudinous bumps, the grid does not precisely lose capacity, it fractures. The non-identical sections of the network come insulated from one another. Generally, exigency cargo slipping systems spark to take these fractures. Still, because the damage was contemporaneous and wide, these systems failed to improve the network, performing in a grand knockout preferably than a played reduction in authority. Repairing this damage will take weeks. In the meantime, the government has been forced to deflect exigency energy reserves to keep introductory survival structure, like sanitarium creators, functional. The strategic cargo of these strikes is concentred in Khuzestan fiefdom. This region is the heart of the public dynamism frugality, producing up to 80 of the country's grand crude oil painting. Refineries like those at Abadan process that crude into high-value petrochemicals. These productions are overcritical because they're easier to trade through informal networks, allowing the country to induce profit despite transnational warrants. This profit finances roughly 40 of the public account. Judges have proved that a significant portion of this plutocrat flows directly to foreign networks. These finances give the functional budgets for Hezbollah in Lebanon and Houthi missions in Yemen, as well as host networks across Iraq and Syria coordinated by the Revolutionary Guard. The Israeli Marshal Command argued that by striking the profit source, they could contemporaneously degrade the capacity of every one of these deputy networks. The thing was to remove the fiscal machine driving the region's martial posture. Reaction was immediate. The Revolutionary Guard placed all indigenous deputy networks on consolidated descent alert within hours of the strikes. Preferably than creating a pause, the operation shifted the indigenous geography into a notice unpredictable country. In southern Lebanon and Yemen, manpower shifted into active readiness postures, vowing an expanded reaction. Regional neighbors gestured alarm. Saudi Arabia and Qatar issued admonishments descrying the targeting of mercenary dynamism structure, while the UAE called for immediate transnational agreement. These perfection strikes didn't produce a pause. Rather, they accelerated the functional tempo for every service player in the Middle East. Global requests smelled the jolt within 2 hours. Brent crude oil painting prices surged 9.2, one of the sharpest intraday raises in the once 5 times. Shipping insurance classes for the Strait of Hormuz climbed sprucely. This raceway carries 20. There's presently no participated frame for concession. Both sides have espoused inharmonious positions on what constitutes tone protection, and transnational mechanisms have consequently far been unfit to put a pause. The discordance has crossed into a phase where mercenary structure is the primary prey. Millions of people now reside in the crosshairs, whether they're Iranians waking up in the black or Israelis